and our esteemed members of SIF to the second session of Crafting a Sustainable Career Season 4, which is conducted by SIF. A gentle request to all the students to kindly post their questions in the chat box. They can also download Mentimeter for an interesting quiz that will come up during the program. Now I invite Mr. Subhashji, our General Secretary to SIF UAE, for a brief introduction to SIF.
Thank you, Radhika ji. I hope I am unmuted now. Yes. So thank you, Radhika ji. Namaste and warm welcome. Good morning to everyone. This is the second session of Career Guidance Program. So I would be repetitive for the students who joined for session 1. But it is always good to give a brief on Science India Forum, because you never know there would be new participants and new people, right? So Science India Forum is part of the Vigyan Bharati, which is Vibha, called Vibha, based in India. This is a nationalist science movement which was established in Institute of Science in Bangalore. And the whole purpose was to drive students into pure science research and also to make them aware about the contribution of Indian scientists in the field of various sciences. And that is very critical and very important, because as Indians, we may not know everything that we contributed into the science. And this was one of the reasons why VIBA was established. In UAE, we started in 2004, so roughly about 16 years back. And again, we've been very successful in conducting a lot of programs to drive this mission. And that mission is to make you, have more affinity towards pure science, as well as for familiarizing you to the contribution of Indian scientists in the field of science. Not very recent, but our contribution to science starts from ancient India, from Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta to Dr. Abdul Kalam and others. So through various programs like Shastra Pratibha, Children's Innovation Festival, National Children's Science Congress, and Teachers Empowerment, interaction with scientists. These are some of the programs, some of the various programs that we have every year. We try to push these two missions, which is to help you find a good career in science, and also to mend you to give back to the society on whatever field or career you do. So just some few announcements. Shastra Pratibha examination registration will start next week. So just visit our sifuae.com website and you can start registering yourself for Shastra Pratibha. Last year, around 15,000 students participated. These students can just log in back and change their grade and reappear for the exam. The registration for Children's Innovation Festival is also active on the live on the website. So schools can participate in various events for Children's Innovation Festival. At the same time, there is a National Children's Science Congress, which is a very prestigious national level competition in India. And you can enroll through sifuae.com website, participate and get an opportunity to represent UAE at national levels in India in December. So for that also the registration forms are live. Okay, so these three are the upcoming programs, and all the information is on sifuae.com. We will also post our social media platforms. You can also join to be updated. Okay, so having said that, I hand over back to Radhika ji, and hope you have a good listening and if you find it useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Subhash ji. Once again, a warm welcome to all the students who have just joined in. We are beginning with our session, season 2 of Crafting a Sustainable Career, season 4. General information before we begin, kindly keep your mics on mute. You can download Mentimeter because we'll be having a quiz in between the program. Also, whatever questions you want to ask to the speaker, you can put it in the chat box. We'll be having a question and answer session also. So for the first speaker of the day, we welcome Dr. Yesh Srinivasan. Speaking about Dr. Yesh, he is the Vice President of Data Science and Engineering in Triplelift. where he heads the applied research and engineering functions spanning machine learning, data science, and computer vision. Since obtaining his PhD in electrical and computer engineering from Texas Tech University, Dr. Yesh has led various technology teams through the successful development of web-scale applications and technology products, spanning a wide range of fields, including digital advertising and publishing, medical imaging, high-speed computer vision software development, and nanotechnology. Over the last 7 years, Dr. Yesh and his teams have built and scaled machine learning and computer vision models for yield management, real-time pricing, forecasting, brand safety, search and recommendation, topic modeling and content classification, anomaly detection, lookalike modeling, and several more for some of the world's largest digital publishers and ad tech platforms that serve hundreds of millions of users each day. Dr. Yesh frequently shares his experience and expertise on cutting edge applications of AI and ML, especially in the world of ad tech, at invited talks, industry panels, and review boards. Dr. Yesh's work has been published in at least 12 peer reviewed publications and book chapters and resulted in 6 US patents. That's quite an accomplishment, Dr. Yesh. Welcome to our forum. I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Radhika ji. Even I was a little tired of at the end of it. No, I don't know if I deserve all of that, but thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you to Ms. Sudha for inviting me to this forum, and thank you to all the bright young minds here this morning, bright and early on a Sunday morning. So I think with that, I will share my screen if that's okay.
Yes.
And
yes, it's visible.
And there we go. Hopefully that's good. All right. Is it still visible? Is that are you able to see my screen? Or...
Yes, we are able to view it.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's get started here. So I will, I believe I'm going to be boring all of you for the next 30 minutes. So it's only fair that I give you a brief agenda of what you're going to be bored with. So introduction, I'll keep it really short because Mr. Radhika already did that. And I'll get into the world of ad tech. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. So I'm hoping to give you a preview of this big world of ad tech and hopefully get you excited about the field. And then I will talk a little bit about the technology and machine learning at Triplelift, which is the company where I work right now. And then we'll get into 1 or 2 applications, ML applications in ad tech that are outside of Triplelift. And then we'll talk about what kind of training is required and to get into the world of data science and machine learning. And finally, I will leave you with some life lessons because every Indian is supposed to give advice. So and I think I'll leave you all with some of that, and then we'll get into some Q&A. So with that, who am I? And so I'll keep this part short, but I would say I'd at least like to, share with you how I got into this field, right? So what is data science? So data science is, you hear it everywhere. So data science loosely refers to a basket of subjects and ideas that are used to extract intelligence from data and use it to make our world better, right? So machine learning being one of those ideas where essentially you're teaching a machine, usually a computer, to learn new tricks. Like, hello? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we are, okay. You are audible.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, so like make machines learn new tricks. So for example, so let's say Yesh went and bought a white linen shirt and a pair of beach shorts. So what else do you think he may be interested in. So if I'm on Amazon, Amazon might come in and say, it's like, well, perhaps this indicates that Yesh may be going on a vacation, and so he may need some sandals or some new kinds of shoes, right? And so that's an example of machine learning, right? So data science is a basket of sciences, like include machine learning is one of them, computer vision. It could be a lot of other things. Just data analytics falls under a lot of data analytics falls under data science, right? So I would call myself an eternal student of data science, because I think I'm still learning. I don't think I know enough about the subject, even though I've been learning this for maybe like 15, 20 years at this point. But with that, I would say my early interest, I didn't know I was going to be a data scientist. I didn't know I was going to get into machine learning.
Let me see.
So I didn't know I was going to get into this field. And so early on, I just had some interest in, a little bit of programming, a little bit of like building small electronic things. Like I used to build doorbells, or writing programs to create sine waves, and that would dial through a phone speaker, or build like little FM transmitters that would start I had this big idea of like starting my own radio channel. And then I realized that, you could build an FM transmitter. To build a radio station, you need, something bigger than my house to power a power system that would be bigger than my entire house at that time in Chennai. And so, yeah, but nevertheless, I was hacking together all of these different things. And that's how I got interested in electronics and communication, bit of programming. And then slowly getting into all this, eventually developing some interest in signal processing, which is 2D signal processing is computer vision. And I got my PhD in specializing in computer vision for medical imaging. And then over the last 7 years, I've been working in this world of ad tech and digital publishing. So you can see that, it was not like one straight line to where I am today. And we'll get into like what I'm doing now, as well as what I've been doing over the last 7, 8 years or so, right? So, and as Ms. Radhika mentioned, I am the VP of Data Science and Engineering at Triplelift, where I oversee we call applied research functions, which is machine learning, computer vision, and data science. So what is the world of ad tech, right? So ad tech is short for advertising technology. And it refers to a collection of companies and technologies that power monetization of content on the internet or any internet connected devices, right? So for example, if you're watching a video on YouTube or TikTok, or checking out photos on Instagram or Pinterest, or just reading something on Yahoo or CNN.com or NewYorkTimes.com. So all of these things are, technologies that are powered by ad tech. They are the monetization. So the people that create content on these platforms are usually getting, they can manage their careers, they can run their careers through this because of advertising technology, because there are ads, and they get paid through the ads, and the platforms take a small charge, and then the rest of it goes to the creator, right? So every internet user sees about 4,000 ads a day. So you may not realize this, but if you count the number of ads that you see on YouTube, or when you're checking out pages if you're gaming and you see ads, this may seem like a lot, but an average internet user sees up to 4,000 ads per day. So if you really think about it, if there are 2 to 3 billion internet users every single day, this is 8 to 12 trillion ads per day, right? That are being generated and that are being transacted on the open web. And advertising is what keeps the internet free, right? So like nobody before, if you have to go, if you have to create a show for a TV, you needed contacts, you needed a lot of different things, machines to be in place. But now you could generate a piece of content, put that on YouTube, and and as long as you keep generating effective content, you can have advertising pay pay for a career as a content creator for you, right? Do we have any budding chefs here? I don't think I can see anybody here, so I'm gonna run along. But so for example, here's a little example of a site, which is the Spruce Eats, which is one of the properties of the company that I used to work for before. And it's here's a recipe on garlic bread, and as you can see, if you're looking to make garlic bread on your own, you would go to this page, and then you'd go to the recipe, take a look at it, and you read the recipe, make your garlic bread, and comes out great. But how does the person who created this recipe make money? It's because of these things that you see on the side, which are these ads, which which may not seem like ads, but if you can see, they're fairly relevant, right? So they're relevant to the content on the page. You say it's like, well, this is a page about food, so what are some related content to the food, and maybe that is of interest when you're browsing, and then you click through, and then go check out that advertising, and that the brand that's advertising gets you as a customer, right? So as far as the technology is concerned, right, I mentioned this before, so everybody's seeing 4,000 ads per day, and there are trillions of ads that are transacted per day. So trillion is 1,000 billion or 1,000,000 million, so that's a lot, right? So that's a lot of ads that are going through the system, and there are so many players within the system that enable this transaction. So every single one of these 4,000 ads per person, or 8 to 12 trillion ads per day, goes through literally all of these players, right? Or at least a good fraction of these players for every one of these. So how does this work? So let's say you're an audience, right? So you let's say Yesh goes to a page, and so it goes to the page on garlic bread, on the Spruce Seeds. The Spruce Seeds would be called the publisher, right? And so I would go to that page, and the moment I land on that page, there are the page, as the page is loading, there are these ad slots that are being loaded onto the page, and there are maybe like 20 ad slots, some video ads, some display ads, right? So all of these slots get passed to these ad exchanges, right? So an ad exchange, or what you would call an SSP, so they're used sort of interchangeably. And so Triplelift, the company that I work for, you would call it an ad platform or an ad exchange or an SSP. And so the publisher sends these 20 ad requests to the ad exchanges, which then send it to the SSP, and these in turn will talk to DSPs, or demand side platforms, which in turn work with advertisers on the other side. So advertisers would be like brands like Coca-Cola or Johnson & Johnson, so that want to advertise a new product, advertise a new brand of Coke, or new toothbrush or toothpaste or whatnot, right? So, and all of these things, when you land on the page, in the second or 2 seconds that it takes to load that page, all these 20 ad slots or 30 ad slots, however many ad slots on the page, they're being sent through all of these channels. So all of the exchanges need to work within sub 1 second, so 100 milliseconds or so, and then they have to send it to their DSPs. They need to send it to the what are called the data management platforms, which maintain this bank of like, well, I have seen this user on site ABC, I have seen this other user on XYZ, right? And are they similar to each other? So all of these companies are making all of these decisions before the advertiser says, it's like, well, this Yesh could probably benefit from an ad because Yesh doesn't need a toothbrush anymore. He just only needs toothpaste. So let me just show a toothpaste ad, right? And by the time the page loads, I have all of the ads that have been transacted through all of these different layers that get populated onto this page, right? And every one of these companies uses so many different kinds of data science and machine learning tools in order to enable these transactions. So for example, publishers may use techniques like natural language processing, where they automatically understand and classify different kinds of pages based on interest groups. So so let's say if you like pizza and let's say you like football, then the publisher may use that data. So they may they'll use machine learning tools to understand what are common interests for all the people that are visiting my site. So they may say it's like, well, there are enough people who are interested in football and pizza. So they may say it's like, well, let me write an article about the best pizzas to serve at your next football watch party, right? So, and then they could use another branch of machine learning called recommender systems to recommend that article the new article that they wrote about best pizzas to serve at your new football or next football watch party. And they could use that to recommend next to, your football scores that you're checking out on their site, right? So, and those would use recommender, a branch of machine learning called recommender systems or recommendation engines. And the most common examples would probably be Netflix, right? So when you're watching, these are the kinds of techniques that they would use to say, it's like, well, because you watched X, Y, and Z, let's watch, maybe you should be watching this other thing, right? And Amazon is another great example. If you've ever gone shopping on Amazon, it'll say it's like, well, based on all the things that you have just browsed, these are the things I'd recommend for you. Based on people that bought white linen shirts also bought these different things, right? People that watched this TV show also watched this kind of thing. So these would all be like different kinds of recommender systems, right? So in all of these things, each one of these companies uses like different kinds of machine learning algorithm, machine learning tools, and the impact is just enormous on all of these. Now, so remember the slides. I'm going to ask, there's going to be a pop quiz at the end of this thing where I'm going to ask you to name all of these companies. I'm only joking. I don't even know all of these, but these are all the companies that, and this was as of a few years ago, and this is only for a very specific kind of ad called native ads, right? And this is a chart made by this company called Luma. And it's called, so these are all the set of all the companies that transact in native advertising alone, right? So you can think of, there are probably dozens of different formats of ads, and each one of these things is, each one of these ads are, each one of these companies deal in so many different kinds of ads. And then there are other companies that deal with all of, different other kinds of like connected TV ads or video ads. And the there are numerous ones of these, right? And of this is the company that I work for. It's called Triplelift, right? And Triplelift alone processes trillions of ads every single month, right? So we are part of this, Triplelift manages an ad platform, and we transact with trillions of ads every single day, right? So let's get into a little bit about technology and machine learning at Triplelift, right? So Triplelift, like I said, is an ad exchange. We deal with, we provide the ability to transact, and we are the intermediary between the publisher and the advertisers, and we deal in several different kinds of formats. And the simplest form is called a display ad, for example. So you can see here is this is an article about it in a publisher called Women's Health. And this is an article about baking healthy stuff. And I think, so as you can see, this is Reynolds Wrap, which is a maker of aluminum foil. And so this is a relevant ad. And so the kinds of technologies that would be used within this are the same thing, like natural language processing, where we try to understand what is the content on page. So, and when we say like, what is the most optimal ad to serve in this? So what is the optimal brand that would go with this content that is on page? or other kinds of the computer vision technology where we would say it's like, well, the creative image is probably too big. How do we autofocus such that only the center part of it, because this is on a mobile page, and then the full image, the full size image may have been optimized for a laptop. And so how do we just not crop this image at the left corner? How do we automatically move it such that whatever the ad is completely on focus? And as you can see here, this ad is centered on the product itself, right? And so this would be a simple display ad. Native ad is something that Triplelift invented. So the idea here is that it looks like the other content that is on page. So you can see that this is about this is a page about being a parent, and how to what kind of articles should parents know about, new parents know. And one of these things is this ad, but that looks like it's a sponsored ad by Cheerios or a cereal, and it looks very similar to the other content on the page. So it looks like it is native to the page. It looks like a full news form article, and it's about like how Cheerios is making healthy cereal, right? So that's that's a native ad, right? And and then the last, well, this is another form. This is not the last form. We have like Triplelift manages about a couple of different, couple of dozen formats. Supports a couple of dozen formats. And so this is another one that's called a branded video, which is similar to, largely similar to the native ad, but you can see it's like a video by Nike that's on a page about sports and entertainment, and how like people are overcoming obstacles. And it's a video that looks very similar to the content on the page, and that's very relevant to the content on the page. And like every other company that's out there that's looking to incorporate generative AI, we like Triplelift is also exploring like all of the latest and greatest there to see if we can reliably automate the process of generating copy. So a copy for an ad is the text that you see that goes with the ad, or the imagery that goes with the ad. And hello?
Participants, can
Sorry,
you please mute yourself?
Yeah, please, students, please mute yourself.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Yesh, please continue.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. And I thought I was muted for a while. It said the host muted me, so I wasn't sure if I was not muted. Okay, cool. So yeah, branded video is another kind of ad, and we're looking at generative AI to see if we can reliably generate the process, generate copy for the ads, the text and the taglines or the images, but we're a little ways away from doing that reliably for ads just yet. And another thing that I don't think you can see the video. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to see if I can play the video. Oh, wait a second. Is that okay if I just go stop the share and then play this video? Or I wish I could show this video.
Yeah, it should be fine. Because
okay.
As of now, we are not able to see it.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna stop this for a second and then see if I can share this video real quick. Yeah. So another thing that my teams work on is computer vision. So as you can see, I hope you can see this video now, right? And there's
Yes.
so this uses, so for example here, this uses different technologies from computer vision called object recognition and tracking, So where we try to identify, so if you see here, right, so we're trying to identify different objects that are within the scene, right? And then we're trying to do scene analysis to understand like what are different kinds of objects on the screen. And then if you see here, right, we've done the scene analysis, and then we can recognize that there's this poster here that we can then go in and try to replace it with different things, right? So you can see that once we have identified that object, so all of that is doing that is happening in automatically with computer vision techniques, where we're automatically recognizing posters that are on the scene, and then we're replacing them with different kinds of objects. This is another thing where we look at different kinds of different places where we can put product and brand insertion. So for example, if you see that there's this place here on top of the storefront, which is empty, and there's a wall. And so we can once we recognize that, we can replace it with different brands and put different kinds of brand names in there. And so that's called brand and product insertion. And that's a new format of ad and ad experience that is unintrusive, unobtrusive, and has a very high brand recall value. The other things would be like, content categorization to identify like videos where we have, identifying like what kind of videos, if there's any obscenities in the videos, we don't want them being served. We don't want them to like understand the brand safety of the videos, and make sure that we're not showing it to the wrong audience or sending the wrong kind of message, or putting ads that the brands in places where the brands may not really want those ads to be served, right? So I'm gonna go back to share and do this, right? So yeah, and I hope you can continue to see my screen, right?
Yes.
So what other applications? I'll just quickly do like one other application, like something that everybody is probably familiar with. So one other application of ML in ad tech, and perhaps you could make the argument that Google is the most successful ad tech company in the world, right? So anytime you do Google search, and we don't realize it, but so for example, here I'm looking for sightseeing Athens, right? So I'm searching for sightseeing Athens, and we're searching for in Google surfaces the most relevant content. But each one of these things, when I run a search, right, Google runs dozens of different ML technologies like ranking and recommendation algorithms and natural language processing to understand the context of each search term, and then find relevant pieces of content on the web, and also match it to relevant providers of this, right? So sightseeing tours. So if you can see, it seems like it's giving me like Athens sightseeing tours. So it's like all of these things are really relevant to my search, but a lot of the first ones are all ads because it says sponsored. So that's how it's like it's an ad, but it's still relevant. And Google is optimizing this to say, it's like, well, how can people that provide services and advertise on the platform make money? And then, how can we as a company keep sustaining ourselves and also surface the most relevant results, right? The other example is Google Maps. Again, right, you can see that there are all of these locations that are pinned here. So this uses like location-based algorithms, which says, because that uses other pieces of information to build a better model to say, it's like, well, there is, so like this person is currently in Athens. So, and this is their current location. These are some of the nice restaurants that are advertising in this space, in this region. So based on Yesh's interest in foods and all the other restaurants that he's eaten in, these are the other things that we can recommend, right? So I'll leave with that, that last application. And then, so in terms of training, what do you need for a career in machine learning, right? So I would put this in 3 buckets, right? So first is your fundamentals. So fundamentals, what are things that you can be doing now, right? So all of you they said that you're all in 9th to 12th grade. So obviously a lot of these things are probably you haven't gotten into it just yet, but things that you could be doing now, things that I wish I knew, right? So for example, vectors and matrices. When I was in school, I didn't know how important vectors and matrices were, right? So, and vectors and matrices are fundamental to this field called linear algebra, and it's linear algebra, probability and statistics and calculus. They literally rule the machine learning world, right? So there's a very famous paper that's published. It's called the $25 billion eigenvector linear algebra behind Google. That 25 billion. This was several years ago. Google's now a $2 trillion company, and all of this is based on some very very standard, very basic vector and matrix calculations or very basic linear algebra, right? The other thing, so probability and statistics are things that you'd be learning now, but those are extremely important. All of these models, they're not telling you, well, somebody X is going to click on this, X is Y is going to click on something else, right? It's all like, well, there's a slightly higher probability of Yesh clicking on this ad versus this other ad, right? So probability and statistics play a huge part in not just in ad tech, but just purely in life. Calculus, like differential calculus, you'll learn a lot of that in 11th to 12th grade. And I think like all of the neural networks, all of the major deep learning, generative AI, all of these algorithms are based on some very basic differential calculus called gradient descent. That's the method that's most commonly used to optimize these algorithms. And so all of that is based on some very fundamental, very basic calculus, right? Programming, I'd say the language is less important. Learn data structures thoroughly. The first and the last time I ever learned about linked lists was in 12th grade. I'm sure that you all are learning far more advanced stuff, but the programming language is less important. Those keep changing, but learn at least the fundamentals really well with one programming language. And then your soft skills, right? So logical and analytical reasoning, and your communication skills, work on that. Like work on how do you argue a hypothesis without just based purely on facts and the arguments of the case, right? So just learning those soft skills can be enormously useful. In terms of specialization, say machine learning fundamentals, and then you'd learn like computer vision. That's its own subject in college usually. Natural language processing, those are that can be several subjects. Recommender systems, reinforcement learning is this new branch, this fairly new branch of machine learning that's been beating everybody in chess and Go and Super Mario and all of these games. All of those things are built on this new research on in reinforcement learning. And generally, you would get a degree in computer science, but it doesn't have to be the case. There are more specialized programs with like a master or even bachelor's degree in data science or machine learning that are popping up. So yeah, I'd keep an eye open for some of those kinds of courses. And domains, right? So what I've talked about today is just ad tech, right? You have enormous applications, enormous domains. Machine learning is an applied research field. So you have fintech, health tech, agriculture, climate technology, where like how do we grow, how do we use images of fields, crop fields, how do we use weather patterns, how do we bring all of these things together to build better crops, how do we build things in glass houses with camera systems that can produce very high quality, very healthy, sustainable fruits and vegetables and produce, right? So genomics and robotics, all of these things, every field that you touch, the psephology, I don't know if everyone here knows what psephology is. It's like studying elections, right? So you would think, like, what does that have to do with anything? All of these fields have enormous applications of machine learning, data analytics, data sciences, all of these things, right? So you could once you learn your fundamentals, you could take it anywhere. And finally, I'm going to leave you all with a handful of life lessons that I wish I had known 15, 20 years ago. So just quickly, so let's say be curious, right? So ask questions to find out why things are the way they are. Learn from examples instead of memorizing concepts. Always, try to make an example so that you'll remember things a little bit better, right? Use the power of the internet to your benefit. You can ask it any question and you can learn anything these days. Use that power. Be persistent, right? So don't be afraid of the road less traveled. Try things, learn from your mistakes, course correct, and just continue along, right? So most successful people and companies simply just outlasted less persistent ones. One of my favorite stories is when growing up in India, you hear the story of, well, Edison invented the light bulb, right? So, but that seems like one moment in one half a second that this brilliant idea came to him, but Edison had more than 1,000 failed experiments and just kept iterating and iterating and iterating. And if you ever get a chance to go to the American History Museum in Washington, D.C., he was sending teams of people to China when there were no planes in the 1800s and ships before airplanes to research, for example, the specific kind of bamboo to make his filaments for his light bulb, right? And now, and when a reporter asked him, like, how did it feel to fail 1,000 times? Edison replied, I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps, right? And that's how long it takes, right? So you iterate through that process, and that's what science is, right? So you make a hypothesis, prove it or disprove it, and learn from that, and then make the next hypothesis and keep going on, right? So be persistent. Don't be scared of failures or mistakes, right? Then third is be malleable, right? Which means, right, so be flexible, right? My career, I didn't start out knowing that I was going to be in machine learning or data science, but it's just, a constant process of learning. Whatever I've shared today is based on my knowledge today. The world will be a very, very different place when you graduate than it is today. Nearly all the tools I use on a daily basis are things that I have learned after my PhD, right? So both simple and complex ones. There are some basic things that I remember and I use like every once in a while, but you have to just constantly keep learning. There's a lot of, for example, econometrics and game theory in the world of dynamic pricing, which is my world today. But these are subjects I had little knowledge of back in college, right? So be malleable, keep learning, be flexible, right? And don't just be open to new ideas. Comparison's the thief of joy. This is a great quote from somebody that stuck with me. There's just enough in this world for everybody. Differentiate yourself. It's important to know where you stand with others, but always carve a niche for yourself, differentiate yourself, and like I said, there's just enough in the world for everybody, right? Look beyond your immediate world, and there you'll find those opportunities. Get luckier, right? What does it mean? So luck plays a huge factor in your life, right? Whether we like it or not, but you can always use probability to your advantage, right? So if you roll one die once, you have the probability of getting, say, a 3 is 1 in 6. But if you roll it 2 dice, then you double your probability, right? So talk to people that you wouldn't normally talk to, improve your communication skills, learn a different language, do all of these different things, right? And finally, take all advice, including this, with a pinch of salt, right? And this is, life is long, enjoy what you do, never forget to have fun along the way, use your own judgment, learn from all good things and make them better, right? And that's it. I know I took longer than I should have. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And thank you all for listening. I hopefully that was something useful. Matt.
Yeah, Dr. Yesh, that was really elaborate and thank you so much. But we have a quick question. What is SSP and DMP?
Sure. So SSP is what you would call a supply side platform, and a DMP is a data management platform. So an SSP is a company like Triplelift, you call it an SSP. So typically, if you're a publisher, if you have your own site, you have your own blog, you'd work with a company like Triplelift to manage all these ads, right? So they would, because if you're managing a blog, you don't want to manage the technology of loading up the ads or keeping up with the standards, the new standards or the new formats of ads and all of these, right? So you would work with a company like Triplelift, which is a supply-side platform, which enables all of this technology to manage all the ads that are on the blog or on a publisher page. And a DMP is a data management platform. So typically these are used for like cookie syncing, meaning, so in order to say, it's like, well, Yesh was on blog A, and then Yesh also went to abc.com, right? These two, they don't talk to each other. This blog and abc.com cannot talk to each other, but they work through a third-party company that can, and that's typically a data management platform, so that you can be retargeted, right? So the same ad that you saw on one page can be seen in some other page, and that's usually enabled by data management platform.
Okay, and one more coming up. What is the difference between data science and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so there's this quote which so which says when you're fundraising, it is AI; when you're recruiting, it's machine learning; and when you're implementing, it is logistic regression, right? So this the AI, it's like, you know, it is this collection of technologies. It's a buzzword, right? Most of what AI is based on called like artificial general intelligence, right? That doesn't exist. That's the goal. But most of artificial intelligence today, like ChatGPT, for example, that's the most popular thing now. All of that is based on like machine learning ideas, right? So it is generative text, but it is a programmed machine, right? So a machine has been taught to do things. It can do things that you don't expect out of a machine, so it may seem like magic. But and so people call it AI, but it is still a programmed system, and it's a programmed machine, right? So so machine learning is a lot of what exists today. AI, data science is, like I said, right? So it's just a collection of all of these things. So you could make the case that machine learning is one branch of data science. So you could say like even data analysis, for example, would be a branch of data science, right? So anything that deals with munging large volumes of data and making sense out of it would be called data science, and machine learning would be considered one of that.
That was really elaborate. For a novice like me, it has been very informative, and I'm sure that your motivating words, like where you've been building up things even for the radio and other things at a very young age, has been really motivating for our students. Thank you, Dr. Yesh, for taking out time and being so encouraging and sportive with our students.
Thank you so much for having me. Yep.
We have our next speaker for today from BITS-Pilani, Dubai. We have two speakers from BITS. So like I had given a brief introduction of Dr. Yesh, it's mandatory for me to introduce the speakers. So I will go on to introduce Dr. Srinivasan. Dr. Srinivasan obtained his undergraduate degree in chemical engineering at the University of Madras and his MS and PhD degrees from the University of California, Davis. After a stint at CTC Technologies, he returned to academia to University of Texas, El Paso, and then as faculty in chemical engineering at the National University of Singapore. Prior to joining BITS, Dubai as director, he was professor of chemical engineering and associate dean in the School of Engineering at RMIT University, Melbourne, Australia. In addition, he was deputy director in the Center for Advanced Materials and Industrial Chemistry and group leader, Innovative Resources and Waste Technologies. He has been a visiting scientist at the Center for Polymer Interfaces and Macromolecular Assemblies, University of California and Stanford University, USA, and Tokyo University of Technology, Japan. He is currently holding the position of honorary professor at RMIT University. Professor Srinivasan's research interests are in nanoscale engineering for energy and environment, waste conversion to energy and resources, and environmentally sustainable and beginning processing. He has over 180 publications, has supervised 9 masters and 23 PhD students, and has IP disclosures in biomass conversion, molecular electronics, and wastewater remediation. He has served in the highest governing bodies of his affiliated institutions in Singapore and Australia. Dr. Srinivasan, it's an honor to have you with us today over here. I will just give a brief introduction of Dr. Murchana, and then we go ahead. With your permission.
Yeah.
Dr. Murchana Changmai is currently working as an assistant professor at BITS-Pilani, Dubai campus, and is also heading the role as the deputy head of the department. She completed her PhD and master's in chemical engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, where she extensively worked in the field of water treatment utilizing various methods such as membrane separation, electrocoagulation, and absorption. She also has experience in the fabrication of inorganic membranes and absorbents like nanoparticles, organic absorbents, etc., biodegradable films, and hydrogels. She has published around 17 indexed in international journals articles, held 12 international conferences, 2 book chapters, 1 book, and also has a patent under her name. During her tenure as a PhD student, she was offered an opportunity to spend a winter in GIF University, Japan, and a summer in Seoul National University of Science and Technology, South Korea, to do collaborative research work, which helped her gain international insights on research and knowledge transfer. She was engaged with Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited at Bangalore, India, as a research associate before joining BITS-Pilani Dubai campus. She is also a young editorial board member for the reputed chemical engineering journal by Science Direct. We welcome you, Dr. Murchana. It's an honor to have both of you with us. Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Radhika. And thanks to Science India Forum for inviting us to share some thoughts about careers and so on. I'm going to start with a question or a quiz on history for all the students. A little bit away from what we are going to talk about eventually, but I think it'll be useful for us to put the context. Now imagine yourself, say, living 400 years ago, no matter which country, whichever country you want to choose. What would you think your typical occupation would be? I think it is not interactive, so I'll give the answers myself. So there's a very high likelihood that I'm going to be a farmer. I'll be maybe owning a piece of land, or I may be working on somebody else's land, but there's a high likelihood that I will be a farmer, right? So my domain would be agriculture, and there would be others perhaps who are carpenters and blacksmiths and so on, but the majority of the population would be doing farming. So what is the asset that the farmer would have? What will be, what will be the item that they call will be an asset? So for example, right now you will say, if you ask anybody in your family what your assets are, you will refer to your flat, your home, your car, and so on, right? So in those days, what would that be? So for a farmer, the major asset would be their land, right? Now let us fast forward a little bit, maybe 150 years, 200 years ago. Now imagine yourself in this kind of a scenario. We are now in the middle of an industrial revolution. What this means is that not only farming, but there are other professions that have come up. People are now starting to make all kinds of devices. Even trains have come into the picture, which means you have factories that have to make locomotives. You have factories that will make garments. So many other professions came into existence, right, during the industrial revolution. So basically what it means is that there are other opportunities to make a living. So people will have to train themselves in other areas, not the farming part. Now, what would be the asset you would have? Agriculture is still there. Obviously, land will still be an asset. But then apart from that, I would also claim that if I'm a factory owner, my entire factory will be my asset. All the machinery inside will be my asset. And I will have people working under me to make the goods, convert the raw materials to finished products. Let us now move on to the current technological world. We still have all of this. We still have farming. We still have agriculture. We still have the factories and so on. But then we have something else that has come in, and that is the human capital. So here we are talking about intangible assets that people have to have, which is patents, proprietary technology. If you take, for example, a company such as Zoom or Facebook or Meta, their assets is not a huge manufacturing plant, but it is actually the human capital that they have. That is the asset. Now that leads us to the requirements. The key features of the factories of today, the so-called factories of today, is not only about making things, manufacturing things, but also about the thought process, innovation, research, rapid technological advancement. And that is where we find the need for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and medicine, right? The STEM jobs came into existence a lot more in the recent years, mainly because of the fact that we are no more restricting ourselves to agriculture and manufacturing, but we have moved on to other higher level of job requirements, higher level of goods and services. Now, with regard to what the STEM jobs involve, currently, yes, there are lots of jobs available. There are lots of people who are graduating in the STEM areas, but then you will always find there is a supply demand mismatch. So I come out graduating with a certain set of skills, maybe an engineer, maybe a scientist. But then I find when I go to industry, I still need to get some little bit of training to make sure that the industry is able to accept what I have done and that they reskill me accordingly. So this is the sort of the background. I wanted this context so that you understand why that STEM as an area has come to the front, to the prominence, and why people are more interested in STEM jobs, STEM careers, and so on. Okay, so the second part now is about STEM. So now I'm assuming that I'm talking to a group of people who are quite interested in STEM, and there could be others who are also sort of curious about STEM, may not be quite interested in that, but this will be a session where you can sort of get a more understanding about what STEM involves and whether, and also time to explore for yourself. Is it something that you would be interested in? First thing is that you have to think about when do you want to start thinking about STEM or doing something about it. The simple answer to the question is that the earlier the better. Not to decide what you want to do, but rather it is about gathering information and finding what your passion is. I am already seeing the question, so let me just start off saying what STEM refers to: science, technology, engineering, and medicine. Medicine, M could be maths, M could be medicine. There are different ways in which M is being interpreted. Even management could be what that M refers to, but it is essentially pooled around the science and technology and engineering. So that's the short answer to what STEM is. So coming back to what we are talking about, so the earlier the better. So, and what you're going to do is to gather some information and find out what is your passion, what is it that you would like to do, and where do you do this? You already have all the opportunities that when you are in high school. Look for opportunities where you are. More importantly, now that you're starting to think about, okay, after I finish 12th, I'm going to start thinking about university. I will be getting into a university. I would suggest then you start looking into the universities. Even when you're in high school, go to the workshops, go to the fairs. There are many edu fairs that are present in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, elsewhere in UAE. Do attend them, do talk to the people from the different universities and see what they have to offer. Many of the universities conduct workshops. BITS, for example, regularly interacts with high school students in a large number of workshops where we bring students to campus so that they get hands-on experience on areas of interest to them: biotech, machine learning, artificial intelligence, chemical engineering, you name it, we have a workshop on it. Lots of universities have seminars where we bring prominent people to talk about how they have progressed beyond education into their careers. And many universities also offer campus tours. Do go on this campus tours because you will get first-hand information about what the universities are able to offer. To give an example, in terms of university connecting up with the high schools, we will be offering in BITS Dubai a program called YEB, Young Entrepreneurs Bootcamp, in the month of December. We'll send some notifications on this soon. What this means is that we are going to get a group of high school students coming to campus, staying with us for about a week. And what we try to train them on is that how do you go through a startup? What are the ideas you need to come up with? How do you put together a business case? How do you make sure that this is sustainable, this is profitable? So this is at a very basic elementary level, but it provides you the foundation that you can go and start. You may not necessarily go into the startup, but it'll be good to have this information. So if not immediately after graduation, maybe 10 years later, you may start thinking about, okay, maybe it's time for me to start my own company. Is this something that I would like to do? I think that is basically how you would need to look into that. Apart from the technical part, the STEM parts, you also look for information in finance, economics, arts, humanities, and so on. These would be the areas that would be supposedly uh, that gives you a lot more extra information beyond what the sciences give. So this is useful information. No matter where you end up with, you will be finding that these are the kind of things that you would uh, see that as life skills. Another area that you need to look into is lifelong learning, because ultimately after you graduate, go for a job and so on, continuous upskilling is something that you would need to be thinking about, because by the time you start a job and then you work there for a few years, you will find many of the information that you have learned becomes obsolete. So what you need to do is to say, okay, let me go back maybe to university to get some additional information, or something that would be more relevant to the modern areas, or if you may want to think about changing your line of jobs. So then you start thinking about, okay, let me go back to school, pick up another skill, or do something online so that you would be able to upskill yourself. Another part that I would emphasize in terms of the STEM area in general would be going beyond the bachelor's degree. Most of us think about, okay, I get into university, my sights on getting in my first job, so I get into the job and then I'm set for life. Not the case. It is not the case anymore. A few years ago, that would be the case. Take, for example, we have been having cars for what, about 100 years? More than that, right? Now imagine in 1920, you were an auto mechanic. What is the skill set that you would need? The automobile was quite simple in those days. Basically, you had a chassis, four wheels, an engine, steering, and so on. That was pretty much it. So if you're a mechanic in those days, then anything that goes wrong could be relatively easily fixed. Now look at the modern automobile. It is miles away from what the automobile was in those days. It still has the main elements. It still runs. It still has the four wheels, or maybe even less or more wheels, of course. But then what we now have is actually a heavily computerized machine, right? So the mechanical skills that you had learned back in 1920, if you were to try to use any of these things, they may not be useful for you at all. And because the technology is changing so rapidly, the upskilling takes place even at a faster rate. Therefore, that is the reason not to stop at the bachelor's level, but start thinking about, okay, let me get a few years of experience, but I do want to go back to get a master's degree, perhaps not maybe in the same discipline, might be something related to what I would like to do. So these are the kind of thought processes that should eventually have. STEM also has a very strong link to sustainability. If you talk to any of the companies now, they are in the business of making gadgets, or motor vehicles, whatever. However, there is something called a sustainability factor that they need to consider. To give a simple example, if you are in an automobile plant, what is your raw material? Your raw material is probably iron and steel, aluminum, and many metal parts. And of course, now there is a lot more plastics coming in as well. So you have all these raw materials. You have a factory that converts all of that into finished product. So now, at the end of this cycle, from raw material to finished product, what the company needs to also now think about is that, okay, after the end use, when the car has fulfilled its need for the user, what is happening to that car? That car needs to be disposed of. It goes usually, changes hands probably a few times, and then ends up in some kind of a yard. How much of it can be recycled? How much of it can be reused? These are the thought processes that the companies have to put into even now. So in the past, usual tendency is to make it, you sell it, and then you forget it, you make some more, and so on. But now the corporate responsibility is extended well beyond all of that. So the reason I mentioned that is that the STEM and sustainability go hand in hand. And very simple example again. A very simple example again would be we have electric cars, right? So what is the main component of an electric car? It's still a car, four wheels, engine, and all those kind of things. However, the motive power doesn't come from gasoline, it comes from electricity. And in order to store electricity, what do you need? You need batteries. What kind of batteries are most useful or currently being used? they're all mostly of lithium, right? So in order for me to make an electric vehicle, not only do I start looking at making the car, putting the parts together, but I also need to ensure that lithium is obtained. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. It does get low in between, but yes, you're audible.
Okay, I'll try to see how this can be improved. Okay. Just give a shout if my volume gets low.
Sure.
Okay, so now the reason I bring about sustainability is that modern technology has evolved. You are now making electric cars. Now we're talking about lithium. So how is lithium obtained? Lithium is obtained by mining. And that mining, because of the fact that there's a huge demand on lithium, because of the number of electric cars that are being made, we have to be environmentally conscious because mining activity is to a large extent very detrimental to the environment. So now you look at the complete cycle. It is not just about the car itself, but you're looking at the entire life cycle, starting from the raw materials to the finished product, and also what is happening to the finished product. All of this becomes the responsibility of the company. So when you are learning about STEM, you are bringing STEM into the picture anywhere. Be holistic. Look at all these different aspects because that is what the companies are now demanding, not just about the manufacturing, about the profits and so on, but there is a social responsibility. In fact, there is something called the triple bottom line that is required. So, for example, if you need to start a factory, for example, in Ras Al Khaimah, you have to come up with a plan, right? Saying that, okay, I buy raw materials from company X, I make all of this, and then I sell to company Y, and so on. Now, in this process, you are going to show how we are going to be profitable. Second thing that you would also need to do nowadays is that how are you socially responsible? How are you able to provide employment to the people in that Ras Al Khaimah area? What is the impact that your company or a plant has in Ras Al Khaimah? And the third one is that what is the environmental impact? For example, you may be using water, lots of water. So when you use the water, how do you discharge it? Is it clean? Are you ensuring that you are cleaning up the water before you discharge it? So the triple bottom line consists of what is called as the 3 Ps: people, planet, and prosperity. You have to look into all of these things. The reason I mentioned this, putting in this context even now, at this point in time, is because STEM has gone beyond the science, technology, engineering, and everything else. But now people have to start thinking about deploying the STEM areas, the STEM domains into all these different aspects as well. Now, the third part I'm going to talk about is choosing the university. So now we know what STEM is. I'm committed to STEM. I would like to study STEM. I would like to be able to find a job in STEM. These are my goals. So now I am getting ready. Maybe I'm in the 10th grade, 11th grade, and I have to start thinking about what would be the university I'm going to choose. What are the different factors that you look for? First thing that you have to look at is the reputation of the institution. Is it a reputed institution? Are they producing good graduates? Are these graduates getting good jobs? What is the nature of the curriculum and so on? You look at the faculty credentials. So every university will have, of course, trained faculty and so on. What is the nature of the faculty? What is the training they have received? For example, BITS insists that every faculty coming to teach should have a PhD. So is that the kind of caliber that the universities that you are seeking have? What kind of facilities do these universities have? And that is where the campus tour becomes important. So even if you're in the 9th grade, if there is an opportunity for you to visit campuses, by all means do so because you'll get first-hand information about the nature of facilities that are available. Then you ask the questions. Apart from academics, what else do you have? Do you provide internship opportunities? I'm learning calculus in the classroom, right? Now, how do I know this calculus is going to be useful for me? I am learning thermodynamics in the classroom. How do I know its utility? Some of the ways you can find out this utility is by going on internships in companies, where at a level they would be able to show how you can bring in the academic experience into the workplace. These internship opportunities are useful on multiple grounds. One of them, of course, is that you get first-hand information about how industry looks like. Second thing is about the application of what you have learned. And the third one is about the corporate culture. Being a student is quite different from being an employee of a company. There are different kinds of responsibilities. So you get a preview of what those responsibilities are like. What kind of career services do the institution offer? Will they enable me to go for higher studies, for example? So I may be doing a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. At the end of it, I may be interested to go do a master's in mechatronics somewhere. So will I get the right kind of advice to choose the university to go for a master's? Do they have the skills, or would they enable me to apply for another university to go for a higher study? These are the kind of questions that you need to ask and explore. Alumni network, that's an important part of it. Normally, at this level, we don't think about getting into university which has a lot of alumni. I'll give you the reason on two counts. One is when you have an alumnus. So, for example, I graduated from University X, right? So when I go out and start working, usually I forget about what that university is all about until I get my friends together and say, okay, we'll look back on what fun we had when we were in college. But apart from that, I will have an affinity for the college. That I enjoyed the time there. I enjoyed the time I had with my professors. I enjoyed what I learned. These are the good feelings that I have as an alumnus. If I have that feeling, that means I am giving a good testimonial for my institution, right? So if you have a happy alumnus, somebody who can speak good about their institution, then you know that is authentic information you can use. Then I have reliability that that university is good. The second way the alumni help is that when you graduate, the alumni will be able to help you get jobs because they know that they have gone through the process themselves. They know the juniors are going through the same process. So they will be able to provide the required assistance to ensure that the students are placed in good jobs. To give an example, we recently had one of our very important alumnus for BITS visiting us on orientation day on Friday. And this gentleman graduated some time ago, back in the 80s. And because his affinity for BITS is so strong, he has donated 1.2 million US dollars to set up an innovation and entrepreneurship hub. So that speaks volumes about the institution itself, not about the alumnus. Obviously, what they have studied here made them have helped them become important and great and do good things, but the affinity they have for the institution will give you a testimonial that yes, this is a good institution. The other kind of things you look for in institutions is what kind of partnerships do they have? Are they associated with professional associations? For example, BITS is very strongly associated with the Science India Forum. We have many activities that we do together. Partnerships with other institutions. We have now in BITS started a program with RMIT University in Melbourne. And this is a joint PhD program. So what this means is that the students spend 2 years here and then they move on to Melbourne to complete the rest of the program over there. Are there other skills that come into the picture? For example, does the institution offer minors? So I may be a graduate in civil engineering. Now, I may be interested in doing things that are not necessarily related to structures and so on. I could be interested in, for example, data science. So will I be able to do a minor, for example? Could I get some credentials in something additional? So we have minors, for example, in data science, aeronautics, entrepreneurship, finance, material science, and so on. So this helps me broaden my horizon. I may be trained as a biotech engineer. I may be trained as a mechanical civil engineer. But then if I have an additional skill set, I'm positioning myself, I'm differentiating myself from the rest of the cohort, right? So when I seek a job, the potential employer will see that I have additional skills that go beyond that degree. A few other things that also are equally important, that is what kind of additional skills are provided, what kind of environment is provided. For example, are there clubs that I can associate myself with? Are there professional associations? These will help me broaden my network. These are the kind of things that we should be quite interested in, which gives you lifelong skills. So there are many clubs and many institutions. I'll give you an example of why this club and other extracurricular activities such as sports become important. Because traditional thought process for Indian students and parents as well is that I want to do well in university, I want to get very good grades, and that will lead me directly to good employment. That may be so, but then we are now living in a world where good grades are needed, but they are not completely sufficient. Companies are looking for additional skills. I'll give you an example, which I relate at many places. When I came to Dubai 2 years ago, I was talking to many companies so that I get a sense of how the landscape is, what kind of jobs are available, and so on. And I was talking to CEO of a logistics company, and he told me, "Sir, I'm going to hire only one person from your institution." And I told him, "Why do you restrict yourself to one? We are graduating more than 300 students every year. You hire all of them. We'll be more than happy." "No, no, I'm going to hire only one person." Then I asked him, "Why do you identify and how will you choose that person?" "I'm going to hire the captain of a cricket team." For me, it was a bit surprising. I thought, "No, I know you don't play cricket. I know you don't have a cricket team in your company. Then what is the reason?" And then he gave me this. He says, "Think about the role of the cricket team captain. He or she needs to know who are the good batters and bowlers in their own team. He needs to assess who are the good players in the opposing team. He needs to decide who's going to go opening bat, who's going to go one down, two down, and so on. Likewise, in terms of bowling, he needs to know the condition of the pitch, even the condition of the weather, and even the mood of the umpire to know whether you want to apply for DRS or not." So, given all of these incomplete situations, the captain has to make quick decisions on the spot based on all these incomplete inputs. And that is exactly the skill set I need in my manager. I know you will be teaching the calculus, the thermodynamics, electricity, all that I know you will do because you are a BITS institution. However, you are providing the environment where you are making the students grow. They are getting leadership skills. They are getting teamwork skills. They are getting communication skills. These are the additional layers I am seeking in my employees. And that is where the value of this additional beyond academics comes in. So this is something that is quite useful and that is needed. So it will be good to pay attention to institutions which offer these kind of programs as well. I'll give you another aspect to this also, just again as an example. We have not in BITS, but many institutions offer psychology degrees and so on, right? Now, you can actually see recently that art therapy is a new area that is emerging. That is, I'm trying to heal a person who has gone through some mental stress. They're having difficulty expressing themselves. What I would be able to do is to extend something else beyond what is being beyond the psychology and so on that is being taught in the classroom. So these are the kind of things that you would look for, that is goes beyond what is being taught in your major. So what you would suggest is that the institutions that you seek would be those that are preparing you for a career, not necessarily for your first job. Yes, first job is important, but that first job, you're not going to retire in that first job. You're going to continue, you're going to go to bigger and better things. Therefore, make sure that you are able to find something that will prepare you for a career. Now, next part of this would be, what branch would you choose? Plenty of branches are available. Now, before you choose a branch, you think about what is the company looking for. It doesn't matter which company, what skill set they need. This typical company that you would work for, no matter what it is, they look for what is called as a T profile. T profile means that you have two things in a T, right? A vertical and a horizontal. The vertical part is the depth. The horizontal part is the breadth. So which means that if I'm trained as a mechanical engineer, I also need to know a little bit about maybe materials. maybe about civil engineering, maybe about software. That is the horizontal part. So all companies seek to build a steep profile. That is where the depth is needed, definitely, but then you should be able to show how that depth can be translated into additional areas. I'll give an example where that connections come in. Process control is something that many engineering schools will teach in mechanical, chemical, and so on. All it means is that suppose you are running a refinery. So what is the output in the refinery? Petroleum, right? Gasoline. Input that's coming in is crude oil. So ultimately you have a certain specification. The gasoline that comes out needs to be having this much of CHO because it's a hydrocarbon, right? CH mostly. So this is what I need in that end product. So no matter what the raw material quality is, today I may buy crude oil from Saudi Arabia, tomorrow I may buy it from Indonesia, but ultimately I need to produce the end product of the same quality. So in order for me to do that, I need to tweak the process to make sure that no matter where the variations are, output is always going to be the same. This is essentially what process control is about. Now I'll use the word control. Now suppose I'm a diabetic and I go to the doctor. I'm going there for medicine, whatever, treatment. So what is the first thing that the doctor tells me? He says, is there sugar under control? What are the words that he uses? Control, right? It is no different from what is happening in a refinery. I have various inputs going in, but ultimately all of that should be, the body should be adjusting all of these inputs in such a way my sugar level is maintained at the same point. This is basically how the body works. So when, for example, they prescribe insulin, because that is typically the medication that is given, right? So you wear it as a patch or you inject yourself with insulin. What are you doing? You're saying that my sugar level has not been holding steady, it's fluctuating. So I do something to ensure that the level remains the same. So in other words, you are now doing something like this. The entire refinery is now being simulated in your body, because your input now is whatever you eat or the insulin that you take. Output, the sugar level needs to be held constant. So this is where you find the translation. So something that I learned as a mechanical or a chemical engineer in process control is now very useful in the medical field, right? So that is how drug design is now being done. So when you have an insulin patch, that insulin patch is actually being designed based on the control theory that came out from chemical engineering. So I'm just giving this as an example where you can expand many of the things that you are learning. I'll give you another example of how these kind of cross-cultural things come in. The tendency for many students now, school students, is to start thinking about computer science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. So that seems to be a big thing. By all means, yes, there are lots of job opportunities and so on. And the question that people face is that, should I go to a core engineering or do I go to computer science? There is no restriction at all. But what I would urge is that you do not be led by others. You have the passion yourself to ensure that this is what you want to do. That is extremely important. No matter what area you choose to do your major in, be it mechanical, be it biotech, it doesn't matter. You have to have the passion for it. Where does computer science come in? You will find, irrespective of your major, you will always end up learning about computer science. You will have to learn some programming language. You will have to use data science. All of these things are enablers or tools that you will pick up along the way, right? So if you're interested in data science, machine language, and all that, by all means, yes, go. But go there as a tool developer, not as a tool user. In the case of the traditional, the core disciplines, go there if that's where your passion is. You will pick up the computer skills anyway, because that is now mandated. No matter which company you go to work for, you will find this is going to be quite useful for you. So with this, I think I will come to an end, and I would be happy to take questions. So the main message I'm trying to convey is that go where your heart is. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. I would invite Dr. Murchana also to give in some inputs because I think the questions would be likely quite a bit would be answered by that. Yeah, Dr. Murchana, welcome to the forum.
Thank you so much. I'll just quickly share my screen and I'll try to wind up as early as possible. Please let me know if the screen is visible to you.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, hi everyone. I'm really happy to see that there are so many students who have joined for this session on a weekend, and it's really good to know that so many of you are interested to know about your future career prospects. I am also from BPDC, that is BITS-Pilani Dubai campus, and as Madam has already mentioned about me, I'm also a chemical engineer by background, and I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering at BITS-Pilani Dubai campus. So, being a chemical engineer, I would like to discuss today from my part a bit more on chemical engineering because when we go ahead and talk with people, there is a lot of misconception that we come across when it comes to chemical engineering. People are mostly not aware of what chemical engineering is about, or there is a fixed perception or idea that chemical engineering is only about petroleum or just chemistry, right? So I would just go through a few slides, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll walk you through what chemical engineering is about. And when you take up chemical engineering, what exactly you study. And once you graduate off as chemical engineer, what exactly are the job prospects for you? And I'll correlate that with some of the job prospects that are currently taken up by some of our graduates from the chemical engineering department of BITS-Pilani Dubai campus. Okay, so if none of you have visited the campus, we are located at, the academic city, and this is the campus view that you can see once you have, reached academic city. You can just find us as the BITS-Pilani Dubai campus. So starting off, what does chemical engineering mean? So there is a perception that perhaps chemical engineering is totally related to chemistry, or maybe chemical engineering is only about petroleum refining and stuff like that. Well, some part of it is, but not entirely. Most importantly, it is of utmost necessity to understand that chemical engineering is actually a combination of all the sciences that you are aware of as of now. When I talk about the sciences, it means I should be aware of chemistry, physics, mathematics, and biology to be able to become a chemical engineering student. Okay, so it's not just about chemistry, but it's about a culmination of all the sciences together, and the main aim is to develop technologies and products. And while doing so, we are always focusing on approaching in a sustainable manner and optimizing the technologies and products, right? So that is what chemical engineering is about. And at BITS, we offer bachelor's in engineering. You can also take up minor in material science and engineering. And of course, we have higher degree PhD in chemical engineering as well. Now, all the red text that you see on the slide are some of the specializations that you can take up as you go higher up in the course. So this is keeping in mind with the trend in the Gulf region. Of course, there are several other specializations that you're, of course, welcome to take up. So some of the currently popular specializations that you find with the students would include environment pollution control, chemical process technology, modeling and simulation in chemical engineering, nanotechnology, transport phenomena, and so on. We also offer machine learning in chemical engineering and bioprocess chemical engineering and so on. So there are a lot of options which you can take up to specialize yourself when you take up chemical engineering, right? Now, like we just got to know the importance of computer applications, we also have a lot of application in terms of coding and simulations in chemical engineering as well. So computer engineering is not just you study over there, but as a chemical engineer also you will be quite fluent in different computer applications, right? So when you study chemical engineering, you would be an expert in different softwares like Aspen, Python, Minitab, ANSYS, and these are all frequently used up in process control, process simulation, designing, and so on. So how exactly are you going to, or what benefit are you going to get when you, become a chemical engineer student? Well, first of all, we have ample opportunities for internships for our students. Okay, by the time you reach the final year of your chemical engineering, you will be having at least 8 months of work experience as an intern in an industry. So that is a very huge plus point, right? And then you also have options of taking up numerous projects which are laboratory projects during your 3rd and 4th year. I'll just show you some of the recent projects in some of the subsequent slides, but that is a very good opportunity for someone who is interested in higher studies. You can always take up projects, improve your CV and so on, right? And then we also have frequent sessions where we try to uplift and upgrade the skills of our students relevant to the current market demand and the industry demand, right? So we, try to make them updated with the latest softwares and technologies. We conduct workshops so the students are always up to date with the current market scenario. And of course, our classrooms are highly interactive, where you can see, in one of the bottom middle pictures, we have an interactive panel study. So students can have one-to-one interaction while a teacher is explaining to the student, and it gives you a better understanding, because you always need to be curious and you always need to have questions while you're understanding a topic. So that is very important for us, right? And then of course, there is a huge push from our end for our students to participate in all the competitions and conferences that are held in the Middle East or worldwide, to have a better exposure and make them an all-rounded individual, right? So what exactly, chemical engineers do, or what are you going to do, when you become a chemical engineer? So some of the popular fields that are quite popular in the Middle Eastern region mostly would be the FMCG market. That is the fast-moving consumer goods, right? So something like the Harpic or the Piff Paff or your cosmetics. Okay, so these are some of the industries which are highly in demand in the Middle East region. Then, of course, we have materials like construction chemicals and, coatings and stuff, which are also in high demand in this particular region. Of course, we have food and packaging, smart materials, and of course, the usual water, wastewater management, biofuels, and renewable energy, and so on. So these are some of the fields which are quite in demand at the present times, and you as a chemical engineer can highly contribute towards these fields, right? When it comes to facilities in BITS as a chemical engineering department, we have a very well facilitated and modern lab where we have all the high-end laboratory instruments, where you as an undergraduate student would get to operate these instruments, and you have a hands-on experience on these instruments. So once you go out after you graduate, whether be it for your higher studies or your job, you are already aware of how to operate an instrument, what is the basic principle for analyzing, or how to go ahead with a certain sample preparation, or other testing and stuff. You're already aware of it. And of course, like we have been telling you, even Professor Srinivasan mentioned, studies is important, but apart from that, you also have to be, an expert in the other fields. You have to be an all-rounded individual. So that's why we also have a student body, which is known as the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. So once you join chemical engineering, you are by default a member of this institute, which is American Institute of Chemical Engineers. And here, what's the task? The task is you are well connected with all the AICHE, or the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, located in different universities all over the world. You get to interact with them. Your task as a group would be to conduct seminars, workshops, lectures, invite professionals to the campus, and you get to interact with the industry people on one-to-one basis, right? So you are already starting to act as a group leader, as an event organizer. So it's not just about studies, you are improving yourself as an all-rounded individual, which is really very important. Of course, engagement with industry is also really very important. That's why we have our own industry advisory panel, who gives us an idea about what are the latest demands in the industry, how should we improve our students, how should we make them better so that they are market ready once they graduate off, right? So we have these three prominent individuals from the industry who frequently meet us and give us ideas about how should we bring about newer discipline courses, or how should we train our students, be it soft skills or other software skills. They give us these ideas from time to time so that our graduate students are already market ready by the time they graduate off, right? And similarly, like I said, interaction with industry people is very important for engineers. And these are some of the industry people that have recently, visited the campus. One of them being an online talk by ExxonMobil. So if you know about this, you can go and search about this company, ExxonMobil. It's quite famous. It's about modeling simulation in the petroleum sector. And then we have Henkel. Henkel, if you know about detergents and other fast-moving consumer goods, you would know about the brand Henkel. So individuals from these two, firms, they visited recently and they gave a talk for our students, and they had a one-to-one interaction with the students. Similarly, it is also important that as students, you go and visit the industries and you see what actually engineers are doing, right? So we have frequent industry visits, and some of our recent visits includes the one to Master Builder Solutions, which is in DIP, and the other one was to Star Cements in Russell Kema. So this is also very important for us, frequent interaction with industry people and industry visits as well, right? And of course, like I mentioned, you get the opportunity to take up projects during your 3rd and 4th year in the course. So the colored boxes that you see are some of the active research areas that you have, okay? And the gray small boxes that you see are the projects that were actually taken up by some of our students who were in the 3rd and 4th year. So these are some of the finished projects. So you can see some projects include like lignocellulosic biomass to ethanol conversion, or preparation of intelligent packaging films from natural sources. You have, cooling system in solar cells, synthesis of adhesives. So we have a lot of projects as well being floated during the 3rd and 4th year, where the students actually do lab experiment and conduct experiments and end up with, the results, which are actually quite impressive. And where do we actually go after we graduate as a chemical engineer, right? So we see that a lot of our students opt for either higher studies, they go for MS, or they go for jobs, which are secured through BITS, right? So you can see some of the institutes or the universities where our students have opted on for higher studies, which are not limited to just these, but I have just listed on the few recent one, which includes the Imperial College of London, UBC, University of Massachusetts, and so on, to name a few. And when it comes to job, these are some of the industries where our graduate students are working at present. Okay, and then if you want to know a bit details on where exactly it is when they go for higher studies, we can observe that the students are opting for an MS in chemical engineering or an MSc in environmental engineering, or you could also opt for MSc in management or business administration as well. You can go for energy science and technology, food science, bioprocess engineering. So these are some of the streams of higher studies that our students are currently pursuing. And when it comes to job roles, these are some of the job roles that our students are currently working on. They are working as senior scientists or lab research scientists, graduate risk and safety engineer, and so on. Okay, so there's a lot of scope available for you to explore. And these are some of the recent graduates who have been doing tremendously well from our department, and we often want to showcase their success because we're really proud of how much they have achieved in the recent years. Okay, and these are some of the small achievements that the department has had in the recent years. Some publications in international journals by our bachelor student, by our undergraduate student, which is a huge feat. We also had a participant from our department. If I'm not wrong, he was from St. Mary's School, and he joined us for chemical engineering. And then he took up a project for which we asked him to go for an international conference. And he actually won the best oral presentation, which was organized by MNIT India and National University of Singapore. So you can see, the huge success that our students have. And of course, we have different, positions scored, like the first place in poster competition for Bahrain, which was a video for the best video award. And then also there is a recent the innovative competition, which was held by the Dubai International Academic City itself, and our students got the 3rd prize in that particular competition. Right? So these are some of the aspects. Now, you all know about the recent tremendous feat that India has done in the past few weeks. We all know about Chandrayaan-3, the lunar landing, and all the achievements that has been going on. Even recently, India has launched its another feat or milestone for studying the sun furthermore, right, Aditya? So how, as a chemical engineer, could you contribute to space, to the field of space? That would also be interest to someone, right? So we all know about the Chandrayaan-3, and if there are a lot of space enthusiasts in this particular group, I think you know about the different stages that the Chandrayaan-3 is, composed of, and all those stuff. But as a chemical engineer, is there a prospect for you to contribute towards space in general? Of course, there is, right? So first of all, I would like to talk about the fuel. When it comes to the fuel that helped the rocket to propel from Earth and reach space, that is one of the fields where chemical engineering comes into picture, right? So if if you have already studied about the Chandrayaan-3, you already know there's a solid fuel and there's a liquid fuel that has been used in this particular module. And we all know that, we are no longer, still stuck in petroleum and diesel. We are much more ahead of that. We are looking into hydrogen as a fuel. We are looking into biofuels and stuff like that, right? So even for space study or space research, fuel is a very important and integral part where chemical engineers come into picture. And if you're quite aware of Chandrayaan-3, you know that there was liquid hydrogen and oxygen that was used. There was also a solid fuel that was used as a fuel for propelling the space, right? Of course, the second part comes designing. That's where also chemical engineers play a very vital role. So designing each and every aspect of the body. How much do I want the rocket to be tall? Which part should be broad, narrow? What are the dimensions that you want the different parts of the Chandrayaan to be? That's called designing. And that is also where a chemical engineer can contribute. And last but not the least, what material am I going to select for making the body and different parts of the rocket, say for example, or the lander or the rover, right? I cannot just use any simple material. It has to be very, it has to be able to withstand all the different atmospheric conditions that the rocket would be passing through as it crosses over from the Earth's atmosphere and reaches space. It has to be able to withstand high temperature, right? So all those things, we call it as material of construction or material of selection. That is also a part of chemical engineering, where you have to do studies and find out which material combination would be perfect, to withstand all those conditions for a particular, say, launch rocket in general. Okay, so this is also one of the ways in which chemical engineer can contribute towards space research as well, right? So if you might have any interest in that. So that is all about chemical engineering in general. So if you want to know about the department, you can just go and scan this QR code and have a bit more details about it. We also have our YouTube channel where you get to know about the different, the active stuff that is going on in the department. But yeah, if you'd like to interact with me on a personal level, you can just scan this QR code over here. It would lead you to all my details, my contact number and my email ID. You can just drop me a mail and come up with any of your queries, and I would be very happy to answer to all of those queries. So that is about chemical engineering. And of course, like some of you had mentioned, what are the different branches? We, of course, have civil engineering at BITS. We have biotechnology. We have computer science. We have electrical and electronics engineering. We have also, MBA program coming up, specifically MBA in business analytics. And for anybody who has already graduated from any stream, they can take up this MBA course as well. So that is from my end. And if you have any queries, please do let me know. I'd be very happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murchana. That was really elaborate. And I really appreciate you have given practical experience like Chandrayaan and Aditya 1, which the students can correlate very easily. Thank you for taking out time and informing our students. And we have Dr. Srinivasan himself addressing the questions of the students. And we have Ms. Anuradha also answering the students' questions in the chat box. So I move forward. And I invite yet another very important speaker for the day who has a very versatile experience. And I'm sure you will definitely benefit from the information that he will share. I invite Mr. Achuthan, who is a private banker in Dubai. He has over 22 years of experience in financial services industry in the UAE, including private banking, wealth management, investment advisory with proven track record in highly competitive environment. Experience in setting and building distribution channels across various segments and manage large distribution teams across UAE with full planning and responsibility. He has specialities in wealth and portfolio management with various institutions, retail banking, setting up distribution network, identifying quick win opportunities, resource planning and implementation, manage relationship and distribution of asset management, companies accompanied with product launches and marketing strategies. Currently, he is the director at Bank of Singapore. I invite Mr. Achuthan. I'm sure along with our students, even the parents will definitely benefit from the information that you share. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sudha. And I must thank SIF for giving this opportunity where I could address the boys and girls who've taken out time early in the morning on a Sunday. I must say I admire the patience they have shown on a holiday and listening to all of us. I will try and make sure that this is not too long, because I know It's almost close to lunch, but so let me see how I can add this. So before I get into how I got into banking and the opportunities in the banking industry and the qualifications which can help you get in there, I would want each of you to remember something, that irrespective of your aspirations today and the qualifications you would want to pursue to fulfill those career aspirations, it is not necessary that you will be doing the same 5 years, 10 years down the line. There's a large possibility that you might be enjoying doing something else which you never thought of today. And that's the beauty of life. As long as you are persistent in your efforts and with the right value sets as such, you can be sure that you will find space for yourself where you look forward to work from 9 to 5 as such. Okay. When I started my career, in fact, unlike you boys today who are so clear on what you want to do in a career, I had honestly no clue what to do. I did my graduation and started working in a stockbroker's firm as an accountant. And one afternoon, in the midst of making a trial balance, the auditor asked me, "What do you want to do with your career?" I had no clue. I had no answer. He said that I should do company secretary, because those days it was said that company secretary demand will be very, very high. And a law degree along with it will give me an added advantage. Without thinking twice, I just enrolled myself there. Thought that I could become a company secretary and move around to the board of directors now. I was doing my job also along with the same time, and my job required that I go to financial institutions like Citibank, Greenlace, PNP. And I think that's when I started visiting these banks, when I actually fell in love with banking. The plush offices which was there, I just could not help admire the people working there, the way they dressed up, the elegance and the confidence. And I was just praying that I wish I could be there. Anyways, that dream stayed there, and I completed my LLB, did halfway through CS. And one fine day, I was told that there's an opportunity in Dubai in a financial service company. And as a Malbari, what else can you do? So I landed up in Dubai. After doing a short stint of about 2 to 3 years in financial service companies here, I gained my entry into Citibank as an outsourced employee, selling home loans to NRIs. And that's how my banking career started. And since then, I've been fortunate to have worked with some of the best names in the industry. I've worked with Citibank for 6 years, Standard Chartered. The last 10 years, I've been in Bank of Singapore. And throughout this period, I have been doing financial services, wealth management across retail banking, priority banking, and private banking. So the learning here is that, and I'm sure your parents would have told you, as long as you are committed to the task on hand and you want to make sure you give your best, I'm sure that whatever you are good at, you will reach there. You will achieve your dream job as such. I remember this movie, which I'm sure you all have seen. Amir Khan said in 3 Idiots, "Kabil bano, kamyabi jhak maar ke aayegi." That's a very strong line, and I like that message in there. I'm sure all of you all, you will excel in your studies, and you will gain admission in top universities also. But please bear in mind that renowned universities open doors to large multinationals. But your survival once you enter those doors is completely on your attitude and work ethics. Your parents who are successful today will testify this for you. The next point which I want to highlight here is that when you contemplate a career, it's very important that you strike a balance between what you like, your personal affinity, your interest, your passion. I distinctly recall during my days with MSNBD, when I would interview people, I would ask them that if you had $1 million and if you had to start a business of your own, what business would you start? And very often I was able to shortlist the right candidates, because that opens up different kind of discussion, and you suddenly find them speaking very passionately about, some want to do fashion designing, some want to be a chef as such. Obviously, I would encourage them to pursue that, and I would not shortlist them because I needed people who could sell banking products. So my suggestion to you would be, you should also ask the same question to you. What exactly would you want to do if you had all the resources at your hand? You know, individuals who have selected STEM, typically they have very well-defined aspirations, preferred institutions where they want to go. But, you know, ordinary students like myself, I did not have the choice. And that is where I would say banking offers a very, very viable choice for people who are not focused on the STEM as such. Over the years, I've also realized that from a job perspective, if you look at it in a macro level, there are broadly two types of jobs, I would say. One is sales, the other is a non-sales job. Someone who brings in business is a salesman, and the others are all supporting the business. You know, if the sales guys who perform well, they move up the ladder, and depending the organization, they get fancy designations: relationship managers, marketing managers, head of sales, market heads, directors. But end of the day, I believe he or she is a salesman. All the others are support functions: product development, service, finance, credit, compliance, HR, marketing, etc. Within banking, and for those who are fairly aware of it, I mean, credit is the soul of the business. Banks are the natural bedrock on which an economy is built. A sure feature of every successful economy is a strong and a well-regulated banking system. And banks do many things besides the primary role of collecting money called deposits, and then they pool them and send them to those who need funds. But within banking, the opportunities which you can look at could be within retail banking, priority banking, private banking, SME, corporate banking, wealth management, financial services, treasury, investment banking, risk management, so on. Within these segments, retail, priority, you will also see a wider range of products. Retail particularly has the widest, I would say, where we sell cards, personal loan, auto loan, mortgage, insurance, so on and so forth. During my 25 years in the banking, and I've had the privilege to work with extremely talented, extremely intelligent colleagues and bosses. And the range of qualification they carried was so immense that I was overwhelmed with any time I met them. There were people who not only had the BA, BCom, they would be BTech, MTech, CFA, ICWA, IIM graduates. I've had the privilege to work with multiple IIM grads, and it's a sheer joy to see how that mind works. So coming to the moot point here, you know, to start a banking career, and if you want to at least start on entry level, a bachelor's in finance will help a lot. It builds a very, very strong knowledge base for practical and theoretical use in various industry situations. You will study money management, corporate finance, marketing strategy, financial analysis, and gain very versatile skills on that. If you want to enhance your career within banking, master's in business or finance is beneficial. MBA programs focused on banking and finance offer deeper insights on cash flow analysis, market volatility, modeling, and so on and so forth. Within the banking, if you are able to get into wealth management, or if you want to get into asset management as such, Chartered Financial Analyst or CFA is a very, very valuable certificate to have. It has loads of weight. I have seen youngsters who are in grade 12 or first year, they appearing for CFA exams. The certification equips you with skills to analyze investments, assess risks, make informed decisions for optimal returns. And then there are also those who would like to be financial advisors, for which you can also pursue a certified financial planner. The point here is that banking is probably one industry which gives opportunity to individuals across the widest spectrum. Within banking, if you look at the job roles, right from a teller, processor, service advisor, credit officer, credit analyst, underwriter, auditor, finance, forex dealer, compliance officer, digital marketing, trust service, the list is never ending. And with the constant evolving of banking, new opportunities, there are more new opportunities coming up rather than those going off. I have consciously not gone too technical with any job fronts and kept it in a broad way because each of these segments or the roles within that will take longer time to discuss. And if any of you would like to know more about banking, what opportunities, please feel free to contact me. I will share my email address and mobile number to SIF, and you can always reach out to me. The other important thing which I would advise each of you all, irrespective of what field you go into, it's very important you all go for internship during your undergrad period. Because very often what happens is that we may, as student of your age, believe in a certain field or career, but when you start actually working within that space, you might realize that your passion lies somewhere else. Or probably you may realize that this job is not what I want to do. So during the 4 years of your undergrad period, please try and get into internships wherever possible. Does not matter how big or small the company is. The fact that you would be spending 8 hours or 5 hours within any company with a professional, and when you start engaging with a daily basis, you see how the mind works there, you will realize that your thinking is slowly changing. It will help you to get a clearer picture on what you would like to do your master's in. Very often I've seen people pursuing masters after spending few years in the industry in a certain job as such, and then they go back and join some Ivy League management institutes as such. That's one way of understanding or shortlisting on where you want to do your masters. But there are those also, and I'm sure among you all, there'll be a lot of those who are clear what you want to do now. And so if you are able to do your undergrad and you know exactly what to pursue on your master's, feel free to do that. But even then, I think it's very important that you all make sure you all get some kind of internship done during undergrad. Banking in the last, I would say, 10 years, and probably particularly after pandemic, across apart from banking, I guess almost all the industries have gone through a major disruption. Okay, I spent about 25 years in the same industry across 4 banks, and probably my father spent about 35, 40 years in the same company in the same industry. But your generation will not have that privilege. Lifetime employment at a single job is largely a thing of the past. And this is what you need to be aware of. Skill sets, I think one of the earlier speakers mentioned that skill sets which you develop today, it's a matter of time, it will get obsolete in short time. There are reports which state that your generation will probably have 4 to 5 different careers as such. And so the moot point here is that you have to constantly keep on learning, constantly upgrade your skills as such. Employment experts are predicting that the rapid pace of change in employment will mean individuals will need to become lifelong learners to prepare them for multiple career changes during their working lives. There's a report from the World Economic Forum, Future of Jobs, which states that 2/5 of the core skill workers have today will be disrupted by late 2030 as such. Half of all workers will need to be updated every year. Your core skills, I mean. So these are stuff which, while you may develop your specialization as such, you need to be cognizant of these development also. Companies are increasingly, they value flexible workers and adapt to change. Transferable skills are become more important in the future. Even if it means people working outside your comfort zone, nobody teaches you to change careers today. So to succeed in the non-linear careers of the future, you will need to develop soft skills such as empathy, active listening, leadership, and social influencing skills. I've seen in the recent years that companies across have been more willing to embrace skills-based hiring, where they consider applicants who don't necessarily have a college degree or minimum years of experience. It's becoming a top workplace trend for several reasons. While some employees may frown upon non-linear careers, those attitudes are quickly changing. Lastly, I would like to emphasize another aspect, which I'm sure you guys are active on, but that's more in the social media. LinkedIn is another platform which I would strongly recommend to you as you slowly move towards graduation. Get your profile built and upload on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an extremely effective networking tool where you can connect with experts across sectors who offer invaluable knowledge. You should, whenever you get time as such, attend industry events, seminars, workshops, online or offline, because it provides a great opportunity to engage with seasoned professionals, benefiting from their mentorship and wisdom. It also can lead to a lot of referrals, recommendations, and potential job openings. So please make sure you take out time to spend some time on LinkedIn and or any professional social platform as such. So as the contemporary banking landscape is evolving, embracing change and continuous learning and networking is very integral. As a father of two who are 24 and 18, I can empathize with you and your parents. And as I mentioned earlier, if any of you would like to know more about banking, please feel free to contact me. I hope I have given some insight into the industry. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you can address too.
Yeah, Mr. Arun, yes, thank you for your inspiring words. And there is a question, what is the top 3 job profile in commerce field and what qualifications are required after 12th?
If you're speaking specifically as a commerce graduate, I think it's a very generic field as such, because like I said, if you have special sciences, then you can, you know where to go. But as a commerce graduate, the industry options are very, very wide, because every industry would need somebody who has a commerce or a finance background. So I need to understand, is there a specific, because it's a very generic question. I mean, if within banking, if you're looking into the basic commerce graduate can gain entry, you can get entry into it. But are you looking into any other industry? I need to understand that question more.
Yes, I do agree with you, because you've already given a lot of elaborate top job profiles that can be taken. So I leave it to the students to give more specific questions. Also, we have one more question. Where can we do BCom with ACCA?
I think, within UAE, you have a number of universities which offer that. ACCA is something which you can register later. But there are centers who offer that. But if you want to specialize, if I'm not mistaken, your Wollongong University offers that. And there are a couple of universities which I can check out for you. I am not too sure which university specifically offer that. But again, like I mentioned, this is a generic thing which is easily available as such.
Yes, yes, I do agree. Also, students, Mr. Arun is always available. So if there is something more, you can always put up the questions on the chat box. Mr. Arun, I would really thank you for the valid insights that you have given, especially where you have said that internships are very important and they should be taken at the undergraduate level. That's a very important point that students lose out when during their undergraduate period. Thank you once again for all the insights that you have covered over here.
My pleasure.
And we have an important announcement over here. Veji is going to share with us the profile for the next session that is coming up next Sunday. The session 3, these are the speakers, so you can have an idea and also prepare yourself on the questions or any important information that you would like to know more so that it saves up during the course of the session. Okay, as we move on to the most important part now over here for the students, we have the quiz coming up. Veji, over to you.
You good? Sure.
Thank you, Radhika ji. And good afternoon, students. I hope you all have got the message in the start of the session. So please log into www.menti.com. So please log into www.menti.com and you will see the code for the session available at the top of the screen. Please put your name so that we can identify it from the registration database. So there will be special prizes for the winners of the quiz. In total, there will be 3 questions. So whoever answers fast will be leading the race. So it's not about answering correct, it's also about answering the right time. So please make sure that you answer it rightly at the right time so that it's a competitive environment. We already have around 25 plus people joining. So since we have around 90 participants, I will wait until we reach at least 60 to 75 plus. So please join in menti.com. You can use your mobile app also, but for the time being, you can log in using your browser. That's www.menti.com and use the code which is available at the top of the screen. So you can see the questions coming up. It's technology of an open-minded, open distributed data ledger, but it's secure and immutable. Name the term. There are 4 options given. Choose the right options. Is it Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, data analytics, blockchain? You have 4 options. Choose the right one. So everyone has voted. So let's see the right answer, which is blockchain, which 17 of them have answered correctly. Congratulations to whoever has answered correctly. Going forward, don't lose your hearts. Answer the next 2 questions at the better speed. You will be able to win this. So let's see the leaderboard after this first question. Dhruv Bhatia. Keep going, students. So we will have 2 more questions coming up. So make sure that if someone has failed to log in, you can log in. Again, we still have 2 questions left. If you answer the 2 questions in a good speed, you still can win the race. So I am moving on to the next question if everyone is ready. Okay, so we have 48 players now. So 50. So I'm going on to the second question now. So it's very simple. Is nuclear energy carbon free? Yes or no? Please look at it and answer it. Thank you, students. So you have answered. So let's see what's the right answer. Yes. Nuclear energy is a carbon-free energy. So 31 of you have answered correctly. Let's see who's leading the chart now. So we have Rehan. Keep going, students. You still can go ahead. And I would also give a hint for the forthcoming question. So this question would have two options in the question itself, which could potentially be an answer. So see at the options which is available in the question. For example, option A and option B is given in the question itself, and you have to choose whether the option is only A, B, or both of them, or neither, or not. So please look at the question carefully. This is relatively in current affairs now, so you can easily answer this. So this is the last question for today's quiz session. This is about an interesting personality we all like to know about. So here goes the third question. So the third question is, Sam Altman was the CEO of which company? You all know Sam Altman is the CEO of the OpenAI, which is currently in trend, which is ChatGPT. He was also CEO of few companies in his previous experience. So there is two companies which I've given, that is option A, Looped, and B, Reddit. So you think if he was the CEO of Loop, you can choose option A, 1D A. Then if it's 1D Reddit, you can choose 1D B. If you think that he is not part of this organization, you can choose neither A nor B. If you think that he's part of both, then it's both A and B. Most of them have answered. Come on, great. Yes, so out of all, both A and B. Yes, he is part of this Loop. This is the first, to give you more insight onto Sam Altman. Loop is a social networking based on geolocation. This was his first venture, which he founded in the age of 19. And post that, he joined Y Combinator, which is a startup accelerator based in US. So this Y Combinator has helped in forming a lot of known companies in the world, such as Dropbox, Reddit, and Airbnb, etc., was part of the Y Combinator. So he was the president of Y Combinator. Post his presidency stint, he was the CEO of Reddit for 8 days. So this is the quick background. After that, he went to OpenAI, and he's also now part of WorldCoin. So thank you for participating, and let's see who are all the winners are. Let's see the leaderboard. Sudhaji, over to you before I pass on to the leaderboard.
Sudhaji will just be joining us. As we see that the quiz has been really interesting, and Vedji has been very kind in helping the students with all the clues, also giving clues so that they participate actively. So we have Sudhaji over here. Sudhaji.
Yeah, it has been a fantastic quiz. I really enjoyed this, and looking forward to you all to join us for the next session. We try to bring a variety of things on the plate so that you decide what is good for you. And yes, again, cybersecurity, or after listening to all the speeches and how can a career counselor help you, what is his inputs, all that we are bringing forward in our next session. But please remember, it is on 17th. Next Sunday, you're all, you can all enjoy your time, your weekend, and spend with family and friends. But please be back on 17th. We again have quiz and interesting sessions for you. Okay. Thank you for supporting us for all these years, and would expect your cooperation in the continuing years as well.
So please see who was the winner. The winner is Bhavika. Bhavika,
Wow.
are you still online?
Can we have a round of applause?
Congratulations, Bhavika.
Bhavika, are you there? Please. Yeah.
Yes, she's here.
Our team will contact you back again for letting you know the gift that you're receiving.
So as we come to the end of this session, I'm sure that you have really benefited with all the insights that were given by Dr. Yesh, who has been very humble in sharing his inputs. Dr. Srinivasan, who has been very elaborate, and he's always encouraging students to make the right decision. Dr. Murchana, who has been very insightful with her chemical engineering inputs. And of course, Mr. Arun, who has been given a very good insight about banking that has become one of the most sought out careers nowadays. And we thank all our speakers, and we thank SIF for having organized such an informative session. Okay, students, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward that you join us again on the 17th for the next session. Thank you very much. Namaste.